Hello, this is Amy Savage Flores from Novato, California. And this is my first submission for the Art2Ride Associate Trainer program. In this video, I am working with my client's 6-year-old quarter horse mare named Zoey. Zoey has been doing Art2Ride training with me for 10 months. I truly love this mare, but you will see that she can be a bit challenging by being testy and wanting to be dominant at times. She definitely has her own opinion. We have struggled with balancing her hormones as she gets very wild and naughty during her heat cycle. However, we seem to have gotten a handle on it and do our best to work through this hard time for Zoey. This mare holds a lot of tension and resistance in her jaw. She will often grab the bit and root, which is not a true relaxed stretch. During an Art2Ride clinic last August, Karen Loshbaugh had me address this issue by keeping Zoey in a working frame until she felt soft in her jaw. And then I could slowly let her out into the stretch so that the stretch became her reward. Zoey tends to want to be a little slow in the walk, especially during work in hand. I make the mistake of getting too far ahead of her at times in an attempt to get her moving forward more actively. I need to keep my body back toward her shoulder and tap her forward with my whip. If she doesn't respond, I need to tap harder until I get the forward response I am looking for. Once I do, I will praise her so she understands what I wanted. Work in hand is an excellent tool to develop a horse without the weight of a rider. It is a great way to warm up, and it teaches a horse how to stretch, lift their back, and move to the outside rein. You do this by taking contact on the inside rein, facing your horse's shoulder, and tapping their haunches over so that they shift their weight to their outside shoulder, your outside rein. When a horse steps under and across the middle of their belly, it pushes their back up and makes them stretch their neck forward and down automatically. You will see that I put the stirrup up on the horn. Otherwise, the western stirrup gets in the way of my whip. Here I am asking Zoey to move her haunches over, and she isn't listening very well, so I am correcting her with my whip. Again, I lift my inside rein and ask Zoey to yield to my outside rein. Then she goes into a nice stretch. She gets a bit slow, losing the activity in her hind end, so I have to tap her forward. When she is moving actively from behind and yielding into the outside rein, the stretch comes easily and feels fluid. Sometimes I feel Zoey start to lean in when she is in that nice stretch, and I have to remind her to stay out. There she gives me a nice stretch. I lose her a little bit in the corner. She needs more activity from her hind end. Here I am happy with the activity in her hind end, and she is stretching down and really relaxing over her back. Good. I feel like this is a good place to end my work in hand. I always want to end on a positive note. Lunging is the next step in training, and it is another excellent way to build up your horse's back without the weight of a rider. When lunging, you can use long side reins and/or a shambone if those are helpful to encourage your horse to stretch. Some horses stretch just fine without anything, but if you are having trouble, you might want to try using side reins or a shambone. Since Zoey gets tight through her jaw, I decided to put side reins on to see if that would help. Part of her resistance includes falling out with her shoulder, so I wanted an outside rein to help prevent that. With further experimentation, I found that Zoey stretches best without anything. In the walk work, I stay close to Zoey so that I can influence her body better. When she comes up from the stretch, I should stop walking, take more contact on the lunge line, and ask her haunches to move out. Sometimes when I use the whip to send her, Zoey throws her head in towards me and swishes her tail. I just continue to send her forward and out, and she goes back to work. This trot work starts off very tense and bracy, but I just stay consistent with my contact on the line and send Zoey forward. She gets sassy as I am sending her with my whip, but I just keep sending her. You will see Zoey wanting to play and challenge me. She gets tight in her back and sucks back in her movement. She even bucks later. When she does this, I just bend her in, send her forward, and send her haunches out. I'm not very happy with what she is giving me because she's so tense and stuck in her movement. I decide to send her to the canter. She needs to just go forward instead of messing around. Usually, she will settle in after her canter and give me a nice relaxed trot. Zoey remains a little tense still though. I just stay patient until she figures it out. When she finally relaxes over her back and stretches, it looks like she is floating, and it just looks so effortless. She gives me some moments of relaxed stretching, but I know that she can do better. Here it's a little better. That's better. There, good girl. Since she finally gives me some nice stretching trot work, I bring her back down to the walk. Her walk looks more fluid and relaxed after that work. She gets confused when I send her out and goes up to the trot. I just ask her to walk again. Her trot lunging was not fantastic, but she did improve compared to the beginning. Some days are better than others. If I see she is struggling with something on a certain day, I try to accept the small improvement that she gives and move on to something else. We attach the lunge line through the bit, over the pole, and clip the line to the other side of the bit. This gives more control of both sides of the bit and encourages stretch from the pole pressure. Zoey is leaning in on me, so I get after her and send her out. She tends to lean in more to the right, so even though she is giving me a pretty good stretch, I have to use my whip to send her out. There is much less tail swishing and head tossing at the walk this way. She is starting to settle into her work. I want her to be more active in the walk. There's a little better. Now trotting. The sass comes back. I don't like how she is falling in, so I ask her to move out and she throws a little fit. I pull her head in and send her haunches out. She needs to move forward and step under with her inside hind. She does not like me telling her to move out, and she throws a little buck at me. Again, I bring her head in and send her haunches out. I just wait for Zoey to settle in and figure out what I am asking. She's still being resistant. Finally, Zoey settles back in and gives a relaxed stretch. There we go. This is much better behavior, and she is focusing on what I want her to do. Good. Oops. Good girl. That feels nice. I reward her by letting her walk. I have to remind her to stay active in the walk. She trots there, but then I just ask her to walk again. Good. And that was pretty good, so I end there. I make Zoey stand still while I mount. I don't want her to move till I ask her to walk. She does a great job of staying still here. She does such a great job, in fact, that she doesn't want to move forward when I ask. So I give her a bigger bump with my legs. You will need extra long reins for the ridden work. A trick is to add a flash to the end of your reins. I ride with my hands wide, and I lift in the corners of Zoey's mouth to get her to stretch. It is important to use leg also so that your horse doesn't slow down. The activity of the hind end is what helps your horse lift their back. Also using your inside leg to push your horse to the outside rein. When Zoey comes up, I lift my hands to follow the angle of the bit. When she stretches back down, I bring my hands down too. Her reward for stretching is that I relax my aids. At first, this ceasing of the aids may only be for one stride, but that will increase as your horse gets stronger and understands that you want them to stay in the stretch. She gave me a really nice stretch all the way down, and she's staying active. It feels good, so I change direction. You always want to ride a big figure to change direction so that your horse stays balanced. She is falling out with her shoulder in the corner, so I use my outside leg to help straighten her back out. Here I set up a leg yield. I turn early off the rail, ride straight for a few strides, then use my inside leg to send her back to the rail. This is a forward and over movement. I want to squeeze every time the horse's inside leg steps under, which is when her barrel moves towards the rail. So I set up another one. I close my inside leg. Now, 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 now. When she comes up, I follow with my hands. I change directions again. She wants to stop in the middle. So I just send her forward. And I add a little leg yield this way. Close my leg now, 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 now. Good. Usually when I start trotting, Zoey gets sassy. Here she is testing me by throwing her head and hollowing her back. I just keep a consistent contact with her mouth and send her forward. She is still fighting me. I keep my hands wide and keep the contact. She is trying to grab the bit and pull me down, and I don't let her do that. Then she eventually gives in and stretches. That's better. Oops. I feel her jaw tight and her pulling down on me. So that is why you see me keep her in a working frame until she softens and stretches down. Getting better. Oops. I add in a circle to get Zoey stepping under with her inside hind so that she will lift her back and stretch better. There was a good moment and she comes back up. I lift my hands. And wait. Wait till she figures it out. Nope. She's still not feeling soft because she keeps trying to pull me down. I add another circle. And there she starts stretching nicely. Good. Then I add in a trot leg yield. And same as in the walk, I squeeze my inside leg every time her inside hind steps under. There, she's feeling much better. That feels great there. Oh, she comes up, I lift my hands, and she stretches back down. She's feeling much more relaxed. So I reverse direction across the diagonal. I lift my hands to follow her mouth. Then she is giving me a better stretch. Much less fuss this direction. It is good to keep going so that you settle into a rhythm with your horse. There, she's pulling me down a little bit. So I lift my hands for a moment. I'm pretty happy with how she's feeling now. She is getting more consistent. Better, good. Much better. Great. Then she's feeling great, so I add in a leg yield. Zoey wasn't moving very actively off my leg. On the other side, I get closer to the rail and add a shorter leg yield. And that felt a little more responsive. This is her more difficult direction. I bring her down to the walk. She raises her head in the transition, but I don't worry about that for now. Transitions are very hard. As Zoey gets stronger, she will be able to stay stretching and connected in her transitions. I feel her get slow and crooked under me, so I bump her forward with my legs. Now she gives me a better stretch. I have to ride every single stride because she gets distracted easily and brings her head up. Back to the trot, I asked Zoey to come up to a working frame. We have just started to play with this a little bit. She doesn't quite understand where to stay. I try to keep a steady hand so she knows where to be. Then I let her back down to a stretch. She gives me a lovely stretch now. Really good. Then I lose her as she comes up and down and up and down. So I follow with my hands. She gives me a nice moment there. And then there are moments where I lose her. Good. Good. I bring her up again, and she protests. I decide to change directions to see if I can get the working frame better the other way. Zoey moves her head around trying to figure it out. I stay steady with my hands and she gives me a consistent effort. I should get my reins a little bit shorter and further forward with my hands to get her pull higher for the working frame. I let her stretch back out and add a little sitting trot. Her rhythm and her stretch should stay the same. I felt her get a little faster at the end, so I post the trot. Good. Once she feels balanced, I try the sitting trot again. She is good for several strides, but then raises her head and falls apart. So again, I go to the posting trot. I support her and help her find her balance. When she feels good, I shorten my reins and ask her to lift her pole for some working trot. She's unsteady at first, but then she gave me some pretty good moments, and I let her stretch again. I want to try one more time. Just trying to figure it out. And then there, I get my favorite moments, and I allow her to stretch. I am happy with the last part, and I bring Zoey down to the walk. Zoey is starting to get tired, but I want her to give me some good walking to end. The stretch walk at the end of a session is my favorite because you have gotten your horse so nice and loose. Her hip starts to really swing, and her pole is so loose that she gets a head nod. It is such an amazing feeling when they are so relaxed and loose over their back. Zoey starts pulling me down, so I lift my hands and close my leg, but she shoots forward into the trot. I just bring her back down to the walk. I reverse direction. She stretches nicely, but then starts to lean in, so I use my inside rein and leg to send her out. And here I'm making sure that she stays off my inside leg. She goes into a really lovely stretch. Feels great. And I feel like that is a good place to end. And Zoey gets lots of pats for her effort. Good job. Again, this is Amy Savage Flores. Thank you for watching.